Guys, welcome to this episode. My name's Grace and I'm a coach from the Comeback Club, and today we're going to continue sharing James's incredible story to help you or anyone you might know going through something similar just become a bit more aware and understand it a little bit more. So James, thank you so much for joining us. I know last episode we talked a bit about you going into hospital for the first and things progressing, and we kind of left it at that first night in hospital for you. So what happened next?
It feels really weird because you've got so much uncertainty that like something's wrong. And again, that line that the doctor said, has anyone in your family died of a heart attack at a young age? I mean, it's such a hard thing for anyone to hear, and it's such a confronting statement. And I know, I guess he needed to know the answer to that because that could inform perhaps the severity or if something had happened. And unfortunately, fortunately, that's not been the case. So, that first night in hospital, my family had been allowed to stay, and then I'd been given this ward. And what's interesting, there were 4 other people, and so it was a relatively small ward, which was great. And the Royal Free, I'm going to say, are amazing. From having those first scans and the care that they looked after me, and then from A&E to then getting the bed. So I remember being very grateful, but also quite overwhelmed. And it was interesting. It was like the 19th of June, and we were in this heat wave time. And amazingly, it may have been the best place to be in London because there was air conditioning. So that was definitely one thing, or it was climate controlled. So I remember people coming up and going, "Oh, it was the hottest day, I think, the next few days in London." And there was something though, look, the uncertainty, how long I was going to be there for. I know they wanted to do a number of tests and scans over the next few days, and there were like constant blood tests and but like also generally like feeling okay, but being rigged up with all of these like monitors and devices. And I remember FaceTiming my partner being like, and bearing in mind, we've only been going out a couple of months. So it's kind of like, oh God, hi, selfie. And like, but I can't even imagine, if I was, again, being in a different country and seeing someone, like, we'd only met like a few times. So it was, we'd spoken quite a lot, FaceTime and whatever, but it's still, I think it was pretty confronting. And I remember over the course of those few days as well, just, there was a guy opposite me that had a stroke, that was learning how to walk and speak again. And then, there were 2 other, again, older people. I was probably younger by probably at least, I'm going to say 30 or 40 years. And it was really weird because I guess I was looking at them feeling kind of, I'm going to say sorry for them, or like how difficult it must be them going through what they're going through, especially the guy opposite me, learning again how to walk and speak again. And then I almost got a sense that they were kind of looking at me almost being like, poor him, like how young is he, and what's he going through, and this kind of unsaid, I guess, challenge that we were all going through and experiencing. And I remember being quite upset and overwhelmed about that, and I guess the confrontingness of it. And it's all in ultimately that uncertainty. And I think that was, looking back, what the most difficult thing was. And my family were fantastic and coming to visit, and the nurses were amazing. I remember waking up at night and again needing anything, but it was just a bit surreal because it was still like, but is anything really wrong, like in this kind of doubt, and surely there are more people that need more help than me, and I'm fine, like I'm sure I'm fine. And then the next few days, we had a number of there were a number of tests. There was blood tests and rating, and there was something that was raised that they were very concerned about. I remember that they said, if the normal rate is this, but it's higher, and so this is a concern. But I can't remember this specific what it was, but there was something that clearly was showing that the heart was under pressure, that it shouldn't have been, and that was a big concern to theirs. And then the big thing was about getting an MRI scan, and they really wanted to do an MRI scan of the heart, which would then be able to really see more detail what was going on. And I remember this challenge, how many days, how long is it going to take? And, just not really wanting to be in hospital at the best of times, but yeah, just kind of, I guess, missing home comforts already. And I remember, day 2, is there another hospital I should try and move to or get it? But in the end, it was booked in. And it was interesting because there's a photo very clearly in my mind that I can see. To the left of me was a window with the view of the BT Tower. And just a few weeks earlier, I'd been in the BT Tower at an event up at the top of the tower, looking out of London. And now it was the 21st of June. And the 21st of June was it was the day that I founded my first company called Student Beans. And I founded it back in 2005. And I just remember feeling how grateful other things in my life and what's happened. I guess it forces you to be quite reflectory around what's happened and what you've done and where you've come from, and just kind of feels really surreal on the 21st of June being inside in this hospital looking out over London to the BT Tower that a few weeks earlier I'd been in, and could never imagine, I guess, being in this uncertain place really. And so I had the MRI scan, and I remember then coming back to the room and waiting for the doctors to kind of share what it was. And I'm going to say not amazing, but they did. They then shared with me for the first time, and I guess I heard the words for the first time, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and I'm like, that sounds quite long, but what does that practically mean? And the immediate thing, if you Google it or you just do a bit of research, it's as I said, 1 in 500 people have got it. And we're not going to go into too much detail about what the condition is today, but the headlines are, it's the thing that it's basically your heart's enlarged, and there are very different types of cardiomyopathy, but the essence was my heart was thicker than the normal heart should be, which means when the blood goes in and when it pumps, it can't pump as effectively as it should. And so the analogy that was given me at the time that I think best shares it is, it's like a coconut skin instead of a banana skin. And so imagine if a coconut's trying to pump, the skin's so hard, it would be very restrictive. So it's really limited how much it can pump. And so when you're trying to breathe, especially if there's water on your lungs, and water on the lungs happens because imagine you're like a straw and you suck up, but if there's not enough pressure, the water will then go back down the straw. So that's the kind of, so you've got your lungs, and if that whole system's not working, as it's trying to be removed, it then remains. And it was the thing that, football this is kind of the big, I guess, the scary thing was football as a marathon runners suddenly collapse from and die, and they seem to be very healthy and fit, but then suddenly the body is just like, because it just can't pump. And again, that's for many people that are undiagnosed. And, that's, I guess, on the flip side of it is, okay, now we know that I've got it. This is like a complete blessing. It's like, but I guess the funny thing is I was never about to run a marathon, but again, like the sport. And if you look back on my journey before that, I was never really wanting to do those things. I think my body had some way of kind of keeping itself in check to be like, don't do that to me. And so I guess that was, it was quite overwhelming to like hear that is the diagnosis. And I think there's still, as the story unfolds, you'll hear more about, I guess, me getting my head around actually what this is going to mean and how it's going to impact me. And as I guess things elevated. And right then it was like, 1 in 500 people have got this. Many people live a full life with this, kind of, you're going home and we're going to refer you to a specialist, but kind of carry on as normal. That was kind of, but you say that on the one hand, but, mentally processing that and the fear, anxiety, association with like, okay, I guess it's just feeling of like wanting to just live a normal life and grappling and just, I guess, that uncertainty.
Mm.
And so, yeah, after the MRI scan, I got referred to a specialist. And yeah, look, I remember going home after that, nearby, feeling very grateful for the NHS, for my family, for friends, and also for my partner, bless him, that just has been thrown into this world, and incredibly supportive. And it's amazing times like that. You then see who your real friends are, and people come out of the woodwork and support and help you. And so yeah, it was a difficult time, but made much easier with the amazing support I had around me.
So important as well. It just brings to light, doesn't it, exactly what is important. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, and I think in the next episode we're going to go into it a little bit more in terms of what comes next and tests and everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on in this episode?
No, I just, again, an acknowledgement from an NHS perspective, and you hear things in the news about waiting lists and times and things, but I'm so fortunate to say that at each stage when I've had to test the service, unfortunately, that they've been absolutely, stellar and amazing, and you can see the love, care, and support. And I think it's, I know it's been tested obviously in the last kind of 12 to 18 months, more than ever, but how much, credit they are due and compared to so many countries in the world. I feel, and again, there've been a number of procedures and things that I've been done. And when I pushed back to the doctors and said, look, I'm not sure if I need or really want this. And they just said, look, also I'm in such a privileged position, like to be able to have access to literally the world's best healthcare, and in terms of, heart health and everything. Like there's no messing about. Like there was a really, and I think, from the beginning, I remember my parents being like, my dad especially, like, how did they not discover this earlier, or why did they not discover this earlier? And I guess, a parent's natural, being to be like, oh, this frustration, and had we caught it earlier. But then on the one hand, I think, I was 33, 34 when I was diagnosed, and it's like, I feel so lucky almost that I lived this life before, right? I skydived, I went on all these crazy theme park rides. I lived, I really, and it made me more appreciate more than ever, like all the amazing, and the traveling that I've done and the places I've been. And without, I know a line that I'm sure I'm going to say again, but it's like, it might be life changing, but it's not life defining. Like it doesn't need to be, this is my whole life and I've stopped. And you'll see as the story continues, I haven't stopped. I've had my moments where I've definitely slowed down. But yeah, I think for Dede, again, thanks so much for tuning in, and for Grace for being here and allowing me to share the story. And again, feel free to subscribe, and find out about the next episode when we're next live. And if this resonates with you, you think someone else is going through maybe not the same heart story, but finding out about a potentially life-threatening condition or something and dealing with this uncertainty, again, this is what we're hopefully here to do. And thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out the British Heart Foundation, Cardiomyopathy UK, and Save 9 Lives. Feel free to comment on the video and subscribe.